I don't know about you, but I am pretty much done with homemade baked goods at parties. So this one is called shark bait. And in the early 1990s, I was a reporter, a newspaper reporter, with the San Jose, California Mercury News. And on this day, I was at work on a story about the overfishing of sea urchins in the waters off the Northern California coast. Now, sea urchins are popular sushi delicacy both here in the States and Japan. They're known as a tasty dish that also carried a reputation as an aphrodisiac. So their popularity and the high price they fetched at market accounted for the plummeting stocks. So I was wandering the docks of a modest-sized fishing port, hoping to find folks who worked in the industry, who could provide me with some insider perspective. And then along comes Gary, commercial ocean diver out of Half Moon Bay, California, and a fearless bona fide lunatic. If you live on the ocean floor, sea urchin, abalone, sea cucumber, whatever, you do not want to see Gary lumbering toward you with his fish tank helmet, flex pipe air hose running oxygen down from the onboard generator, black wetsuit, ankle weights, knives, pry bars, and collection bags. I introduced myself, stated my business, and we started to chat. But my interest in sea urchins vanished the moment Gary launched into an explanation, totally unprompted, of shark management. See, Gary worked up and down the coast, in particular an area around the Farallon Islands. They're a small cluster of rocky outcroppings about 30 miles southwest of San Francisco Bay. And the Farallons sit smack dab in the middle of this massive 350-mile long feeding ground for great white sharks. The sharks are fond of the Farallons because the islands are lousy with fish and birds and seals and divers who look like seals in their black wetsuits. It's a maritime lunch buffet. Hold the steam tables. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. You just gotta keep an eye on them, Gary explained in an unnervingly nonchalant voice. If they swim by once, that's okay, but if they come back, you might have to get out of the water. I got chased out by a 20-footer a couple of weeks before Christmas. And then Gary started to talk about something else. That 20-footer, which can weigh up to 7,000 pounds a piece, was nothing more to him than a fender bender clogging traffic on his way to work. And he doesn't even start to pay good attention until the second swim by. I maintained my professional composure, continued to take notes, toss out prompts, keep him talking about sea urchins. But in my head, I'm thinking, what? I grew up on the ocean, the Atlantic, in southern New England. I learned to swim in the ocean. I played in the ocean. I bombed around in boats on the ocean, and sharks terrified me. They were inscrutable, unknowable, deadly, impossible to escape, and invisible until it was late to do anything about it. Now, I want to just take a moment here, because I want to be sure there may be some folks in the audience who are thinking, you mean I paid $12 to listen to some guy ramble on about his obsessive wackadoodle phobia? No, this is an evidence-based, thoroughly researched wackadoodle phobia. My summer reading at age 14 was Shark, Unpredictable Killer of the Sea, a book that featured every documented shark attack in United States history on a human being, complete with detailed, gory descriptions of the mayhem, the kinds of gruesome photos sought out by teenage boys everywhere, and even a couple of barracudas thrown in at no extra charge. That same summer, my friend Billy and I were walking his boat out one day at low tide because the water was too shallow to put down the motor. Now, in summer, sharks migrate north from Florida as the water's warm. Now, there are great whites, although in this area they are deep water, open ocean. But they come with plenty of cousins who have plenty of heft and plenty of chomp, and they're all over the place. So Billy and I are clumping along. Suddenly I look down, and looking back at me, or more specifically, my leg, was a 5-footer, just a couple of feet away. Now, for clarity, at this point in my life, I was not that far north of 5 feet. I yelled, Billy and I jumped into the boat unscathed. But I know people who've been bitten. Now, the fear for me, I think it's primal, it's primordial. It's two animals, predator and prey, and we here in the States have, most of us, not been in that kind of situation in a long, long time. I'm thinking like maybe one day we take a woolly mammoth, the next day a saber-toothed tiger takes one of us. And it was real. I mean, I did not like being in deep water. I was always looking around when I was in the water. I don't know what I thought I would have seen, but moved to San Diego when I was 20, a lot of good body surfing, but if the water was roiled and I had one too many pieces of kelp brush against my leg, time to get out of the water. And at the end of the day, I gotta say, I think a shark attack is just gonna hurt. But anyways, in Northern California, the great whites, they are everywhere. I had a girlfriend who one day went out on a boat, big boat, in San Francisco Bay. And they were drifting along out by the Golden Gate Bridge. She decided to take a swim. And as she was climbing back on board, somebody called out to her from up on deck to tell her that a great white had just cruised underneath her. I guess that might be that first swim by Gary was talking about. And in the 40 years that I lived in the Bay Area, there was a steady drip, drip, drip of news reports that involved some poor soul who went into the water and did not come back out. And these news reports often featured surfers. A lot of good surfing beaches in the area, but you gotta get out pretty far to catch the waves. So, Northern California, great waves, great whites. There was one story in particular where the Coast Guard found the surfboard, and it had a big old spike taken out of the front of it, and a shark tooth embedded in the styrofoam. The news reports all dutifully included photos of the board, but the Coast Guard did not find the surfer. And the marine biologists who study the Farallon Islands have a term for this little stretch of water that comes up to some rocks that the seals like to haul themselves out and catch some sun on. The biologists have their term for this little bit of water is the kill zone. Gee, I wonder why. Evidence-based, thoroughly, dare I say it, exhaustively researched. Wackadoodle-phobia. And then we have Gary the diver, who looks at great white sharks like they are the mosquitoes of the sea. And I looked at him and I thought, man, you are out of your fucking mind. But he had the insouciant courage of the true madman. I mean, you could tell that Gary knew. He just knew that the bad things which happened to other people were never going to happen to him. And I could tell from the way he talked, the way he loaded his gear onto the boat, his breezy descriptions of shark management, and just the way he carried himself. you know, he was gonna be fine. And truth be told, that kind of crazy has always been charming to me. And he was a good guy. I liked Gary. But I still ain't going in the water.